Thank you so much for joining, everybody. Good evening. My name, let me just stop sharing so you can see each other. Here we go. Okay, lovely to have you, everybody. Good evening. My name is Kumbia Shinoiki. I'm co-founder and CEO of KMC, Kumbi's Music Company. And we are a hybrid music school based in Lagos, but we teach clients across the globe. And I'm really happy that you've taken time out of your very busy evening to join us for this conversation with one of our parents who was very successful in securing a place for their son in a top 10 UK school in the UK. And so we just want to hear their story and learn tips for for ourselves, for loved ones, and just understand also the role that music played in this particular process. So there's going to be three main sections. So I'm going to give a little bit of background to the school and an overview of their admissions process. And then we'll hear from the parents themselves. I'll be prompting them with some questions. And then after we've heard their story, you'll have an opportunity for some Q&A before we finish. We also have an opportunity to share some special offers exclusively for those of you on the call today. So do hang around to the very end, please. That would be wonderful. I think we will make a start. I would love if you can put in the chat where you're joining us from. If you please put your name and where you're joining us from, that would be fantastic. Okay, thank you so much. So I will, and if you have any questions for the family as we go along, please put it in the chat as well, and I will be checking that. Okay. I hope you can see my screen and I hope you can hear me fine. I'm going to assume all is okay unless somebody lets me know in the chat. Okay. Right. So what is Tonbridge School? I don't know how many of you are familiar with the name of the school, but Tonbridge is in 2022, December last year, it was voted as one of the top 10 private schools in the UK. Okay. And the Sunday Times is a very well regarded paper in the UK. And every year they will produce a league table where they show, they rate schools according to performance. And some of the statistics that guided that particular rating was the achievement of their students with GCSE results and A-level results, as you can see here. So 97% of all grades are at grade 9 to 7, so equivalent to an A star or an A, 97%. That's very much no child left behind at GCSE level. And then at A-level results, they found that 98% were at A star or B, which is absolutely fantastic. So you can see that it's a high achieving school. This is an overview of the campus. You can see how palatial it is. You feel that you are in like Hogwarts or, so, very nice. It looks very nice. It looks very opulent. I don't think there's anybody on this call that would not want for the children to study in an institution like this. It clearly has a lot of history. These buildings are, have got a lot of pedigree to them. So it's been around for a very long time. Well-established school. So what is the admissions process like? Like I said, I just want to give an overview so that you can appreciate the conversation when we do start having that. So they have 3 points of entry. You can come in at year 9, when you're 13. They have another entry at year 10, at age 14, and then they have a third entry at sixth form. So those are the 3 points at which, and so now all boys school, I should have said this at the beginning. It's an all boys school. So these are the points in which the boys can start to study at the school. And the school fees, take a deep breath. They're not for the faint-hearted. So to register alone is £250. Once you've been given admission, you have to pay £2,000 admission fee, completely non-refundable. The boarding fees per term is over £15,000. This is per term. So over the year, you're looking at close to, over 45, 48, 49,000 pounds before you have the extras. So you have things like music lessons, trips, all kinds of insurance. The boarding houses charge a fee as well in addition to tuition for boarders. You have uniforms. You can't just get any uniform from any place. They're very specialist uniform shops. So you have to go to very specific shops, very specific requirements. Those uniforms are not cheap. Um, I remember my son went to a private school in the UK for a while, and I think one t-shirt was about 45, £50 for one shirt, for one school shirt. And you can imagine being a boy, he comes home, it's all muddy, he's been swimming in the mud. Yeah. So yeah, and then of course you have the sporting equipment and so on. Okay, so this is quite an elite school. Now, in terms of financial support, they give scholarships, foundation awards, and bursaries. So those are three different types of support that they give. All of this information is available on the website, so you can look it up yourself if you're interested in going in depth. The annual budget for financial support is about £2.5 million, and that's every year. So I'm just going to delve into their foundation awards, which is one type of scholarship. They give this award in the March of year 6 to boys aged 10 or 11 who show outstanding academic potential, often supported by musical talent. This is a quote directly off their website. Now notice it says year 6. If you remember a few slides ago, I told you that entry starts at thing about year 6. Why the year 6? Well, what they do is that they would select children who show outstanding academic potential, as they said, as young as age 10. They will then pay for them to go to a private prep school for 2 years before they join the actual school in year 9. Okay, so they would pay for the children to go to a feeder school for 2 years. The funding is means tested. They will give between 10 to 100% of scholarship, tuition free, depending on the income of the parents. They could also provide funding to cover school trips, uniforms, and laptops. Remember those extra things I talked about. And the caveat is that applicants must be resident in the UK, but not necessarily nationals of the UK. So they would expect that your child would already be in the UK at the point of which this award is being given. So this is the foundation award, which is given to students a whole 2 years before they actually come to the school. It's, I think, in my mind, incredibly generous. I'm not sure how many schools do this, but it's absolutely shows such a commitment to the child from an early age. Then the other funding option that they have is the actual scholarships, which are given at in year 8 at age 13. And then the scholarships will start to roll or to apply from when the child moves into the school in year 9. So they have academic scholarships. This is based on common entrance exams. They have 3 assessment days, so 3 different days of testing and exams and different types of assessments for the academic scholarships. And they tend to have about 21 of these a year. They have 10 or more music scholarships. You can see that this is a school that plays a great deal of importance on music. And then they have 5 or 6 places for art, drama, design, and technology. What I don't know is whether these are specific to each of these disciplines or whether 5 or 6 scattered across these. I'm not quite sure. And then they have 3 or 4 spaces reserved for sports scholarships. So you can see that in terms of probability, your kid is most likely to get an academic scholarship, second most likely to get music scholarship, and then the others, are not as many. Okay. Again, these scholarships are means tested, and applicants must be resident in the UK. So, the music scholarships, these are the criteria. First of all, if you are lucky to be given a music scholarship, it can be combined with any of the other scholarships, which is good. So if, for example, they give you a sports scholarship at 30%, and maybe they give you a music scholarship at 20%, you can combine that to get 50%. They will also provide free instrumental tuition for 2 different instruments at the school. And so they will cover the child's musical development. However, to apply for a music scholarship, the child is expected to be at grade 5 or 6 level. ABRSM specifically, they were very specific about which exam board they will accept, and that has to be by age 13. And the actual assessment, they're looking at musicianship and the child's potential. And they test skills like sight reading, oral awareness, musical initiative, music theory, and essay questions. And so the test goes beyond what the child would have done for the grade 5 exam. They're looking at the wider musical skills, not just the fact that the kid has a piece of paper that says, I've got this exam at this level. They are expecting that the child demonstrates a basket of skills that are appropriate to that level as well. And you need to pay very close attention to that, because if your child is the requisite skills that justify that particular grade, they will not pass this music scholarship. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so that's a very quick intro. I will now invite Mr. and Mrs. Okeleke, Mr. Kenichi Okeleke and Mrs. Adora Okeleke. I'm going to spotlight them, and they are going to, we will start having this conversation. So lovely to have you. I think you're spotlighted. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Yes, there we are. Okay, I hope that was clear. I kind of rushed through things a little bit, but I hope it was understandable a little bit. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, fantastic. Okay, great. So I'm going to start with the first question I have on the list, which is, was it always your desire for your son to be privately educated?
All right, let me start by, I can take that. Let me start by saying thank you, for having us, and also say welcome to everyone on the line. Was it our desire for him to be privately educated? Not from the beginning, I would say. When he was in primary school, we were looking at him going to a grammar school, for his secondary education. As time went on, we noticed his academic potential, and we thought we could expose him to different opportunities out there, including being privately educated. But of course that's expensive, as we've all seen from the slides that you shared. So even though we were thinking about him potentially going to a private school, we knew that it was also very expensive, for us to pay the entire fees by ourselves, So as we were thinking about that potential for him to go to a private school, we're also looking out for scholarship opportunities. Okay, and we did see one that we thought he should explore at Tonbridge School.
Okay. Alrighty. So he was doing 11 plus and at the same time getting ready for the Tonbridge exams as well. Yeah.
Yes.
So how would you describe his 11 plus journey? What was that season like? What was his schedule like, for example?
What was his schedule like? Interesting. So I think it was more like, well, usually it's the year before, so year 6, between year 5 and 6, that's the preparations actually occur, with the more intense preparation at the summer period. And so we engaged him in some online classes for the 11 plus exams, and then he also, prior to preparing for the 11 plus exams, he's always been attending tutoring somewhere locally, and which exposed him to doing work more probably every day. But then with 11 plus, he had to time on the specific subject areas that you were going to be tested on. So I think he was having that 3 times a week. Those that's the online tutoring 3 times a week, but then on his own he would kind of practice some papers on his own. Over that period, he was also having his music lessons, and one would have assumed, okay, maybe he would probably would decide to kind of hold off the music lessons, but he said, "Mommy, music calms him down," and you can imagine how intense that period can be, particularly for children his age, but for him, attending the lessons, playing, helped calm him down. It gave him an opportunity to kind of get distracted from all of the tension or build up around the 11 plus exam. So that was it. But then the preparations intensified towards as we got closer and closer to the exams itself. And I think he was spending more time, about maybe he was practicing about 4 papers a day, over the summer period ahead. So it was pretty intense, and being fully involved in it as well. But yeah, that was how the process went. That's what it's typically like for kids in year 5, between 5 and 6, doing 11 plus exams.
And at that time, your focus was on 11 plus. You were not thinking private yet, right? Or had you started to think about, entering?
So for the Tonbridge, school that we were looking at, to get the foundation scholarship at year 6, the process has to start the autumn of year 5.
Okay.
So it was a good thing we knew about it. Otherwise, we probably would have missed the deadline. Yes. There's a strict deadline for you to have started the process. So we applied for him to go through the process, but of course, it's extremely competitive. So even though we knew he was going to be part of that, the focus was still 11 plus, because that was the one, at least, we're almost guaranteed that if he did well, he would get in, But for the Tonbridge process, you could still do very well, and there's still no guarantee because of how competitive it was.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go back a little bit to at what point did you decide to sign him up for music lessons, and why? He was taking piano lessons, wasn't he? Oh, he is taking piano lessons.
Still taking piano lessons, yes. So in school, primary school, he before the pandemic, he was taking piano lessons with a group called Rocksteady. But I wouldn't say his interest in music was that high, or that we were seeing significant progress. And then the pandemic happened, lockdown. So, school closed, as it were. They were doing their lessons online, but not music. So it was like he was going to miss out completely on music. But fortunately, we got to know, about your school through my sister-in-law, who is on the line. We got to know about, your school, and we decided to give it a try. We hadn't quite thought that it was going to be possible to learn to play music online. Okay. But we gave it a try, and first week, second week, and he was very much into it. Okay. And, that was how the whole journey started. So for us, him doing music during lockdown was an extra activity, okay, for him to get to do, apart from his online lessons. If anyone remembers 2020, you just couldn't go out, okay? You just couldn't go out. So that was just an opportunity for him to do something different. And we also saw it as an extra skill, extra curriculum activity that he could do. But as things turned out, it eventually happens to be one of the criteria, upon which he was going to be judged for his scholarship.
At what age was he when he started the piano lessons, roughly?
8.
He was 8.
Well, seven going on 8.
7 going on 8. Okay.
Yeah, because
And he was starting as a complete beginner. He hadn't done any grades or anything before then. Okay, so he started from ground zero.
Yeah.
All right. And a few years down the line, this thing was coming your way that you didn't even understand the relevance of music to that process, which is interesting. Neither did we, because we never had that conversation
No.
that, he's going to do whatever, whatever. So that's interesting. Okay. So what I wanted to ask next was, what was it like juggling his music practice alongside his preparations for the 11 plus? You said that he said that he wanted to keep up the lessons because it calmed him down. But he was pretty consistent, he was consistent with his attendance. He was also fairly consistent with his practice, although we did notice towards the end there was a bit of a dip. But we understood the reasons why for that. And I think we switched the focus from the piano to theory for a little while to give him a bit of breathing space. But there was never any time when you came to say, actually, we want to stop music for 3 months or whatever, for him to yeah. Okay, so what was it like juggling everything as things
Um,
were more intense?
an octopus with multiple. Well, I think it was I think it was pretty tough, but I think one thing one thing one thing that he's gifted with is he tends to own things, and so what we had, like I said earlier, he was really interested in it and he didn't want to have a break. And so we as parents kind of just help support him by just making sure that we try to balance things out in terms of his schedule, because I know at some point we tried to move his classes around because it was either clashing with some of his some of his online classes and all that. But I think it was just about striking a fair balance between study time and the music time, which obviously was giving him some value. He derived a lot of value from it. So it was really about just striking that balance and just giving him the support he needed, and the prompts when he was to have his classes, making sure that he was ready with what he needed, and all that. So I would say that was pretty much it. And then
maybe if I can add to that, something I remembered something now. One of the tutors that he had for his 11 plus, was saying how for kids preparing for the exams, she encourages, them and their parents to drop everything else, and focus completely on the exam. We had a conversation about it. Should we do that? Because, apart from his academics, he was doing music, and he also, plays tennis on Saturdays. But we decided not to drop any of those. Okay, so he continued with his music, he continued with his tennis, and we think that gave him a more rounded development. Okay, his music is 1 hour a week. I don't think that was too much to have distracted him from his academics, and his tennis was also an opportunity to exercise. Okay, which is something that he doesn't get to do every other day of the week. So for us, it was good that he continued with those other activities, because it gave a bit more balance to him than just focusing on one thing.
Okay, so you were thinking, oh, we just need something for him to relax, and then at some point you found out that music could play a role in the assessment. At what point in the process did you discover that actually music could be part of the assessment process?
I think it was about at the second stage of the exam process. So there were 3 stages to the exam, to the whole selection process. The first was a test, and then the second was more like an observation, more like they come into the school and they get involved in different activities, and then And then after that stage, if you're successful, then they invite you for the third stage, and they ask for more details about his hobbies and what he engages in, beyond his academics and his academics. And at that point, they said if you've got any certificates or anything that shows how far they've gone. I think so we looked at ourselves and we're like, oh, okay, good, great that he's been doing music. So at least we've got something that we can present as an additional skill that he's been involved in for some time now. And thanks to you, for encouraging him to to do the ABRSM exams. We also presented those. So you played a very key role in putting together the repertoire of credentials or certificates to show how much work he had done so far. So it was at that stage, and it was at that stage that we thought, okay, music could actually be something that we present in addition to the academic performance that he would also have to put forward.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just say that if he took advantage of many of the extracurricular activities that we provide as a music school. We don't focus just on exams. So he took part in a composition competition, a global competition, and he got a certificate for highly commended. This was adjudicated by independent people in the UK. He had certificates for that. He participated in the different things that we do in our small studio. He has certificates for that, outstanding achievements, and all sorts of things that could go into a portfolio to show. Now, a portfolio like that is not developed overnight. You cannot produce it by magic. Yeah, it comes from consistency over a long period of time. And little did either of us know actually how valuable this was going to be in the end. And I think I tried to point it out in the preamble that the school is not just interested in your certificates, they're looking for a rounded musicianship. And so your certificate proves one thing, okay, that you can do certain skills at one level, but then they will now test you again on other things that are not necessarily covered in the exam. And so it's quite important that if your kid is going to have a chance at these sorts of assessments, then they need to have a very secure base in their music that is beyond just passing specific exams. So I just wanted to make that point again. So you found that just before the third stage. And what else did you find out? What was the expectation in terms of what grade he should be at that stage?
Yeah, so the expectation was, for him to be at grade 3. For me, and I raised my hands up, my music naivety, I thought that meant level 3 because, he had achieved that at least, in the theory part. It was his practicals that he was waiting to do. But then when we had a conversation with you, we realized, that grade 3 was a higher level than where he was at the moment, but we were still keen to have him show that, we wanted to present everything to them. So we let the school know that he would like to participate in the music assessment. And thanks to your advice, we told them what level he was at, and the fact that he could play something from his current repertoire, which they were very happy to listen to. As a matter of fact, they let us know, that the grade 3 they put in there was for guidance, and what they were looking out for, was someone who would come across, as a musician, not just someone who has, ticked all the boxes to get to that grade. So that was, how we went for it, and he participated in the music assessment during the interview.
Fantastic. And I think when I read the the letter of inviting him, and laying out the criteria, I got the impression that what they were looking for was potential. And they were not stuck on it has to be grade 3. And that was also because at that age, for the foundation stage at age 10, they realized that not all the children would have had opportunity to have started the graded, been in the graded system from when they were, knee high. And I think at that stage, if he had been taking lessons for just over 2.5 years, there was no way in that time, with almost a whole year dedicated to 11 plus preparations, he would have, meteorized, from ground zero to grade 3. That would never have happened. But what they were interested in was evidence of potential. And I was lucky to stumble upon some chat rooms online, and different moms are saying how, oh, their son is nowhere near grade 3, was nowhere near grade 3, but he still did the music assessment and he still succeeded. And I think one of the comments that I found online that I thought was interesting was, by the time they get to the 3rd stage, they're usually around 20 something children, and they are looking for maybe less than 10, is my understanding. They're looking for less than 10 children. And the number of, from that basket of 20 something, the number of children in that woman's set who then put themselves forward for the music assessment were not up to 5. Okay. And now for a school that puts a big emphasis on music, that was always going to be an advantage at whatever level the child was. The fact that they had some inclination towards music, it was a bonus. And it was, I feel, one of the ways in which they would whittle down that very keen group of children, because the level of academic attainment, okay, will be high. All right. All of those children will have incredible academic grades. And so they then have to start to nitpick that who is going to be the best ambassador for our school, who has the potential to represent us on lots of different fronts, because this is a school that excels in sports, in art, in music, in lots of different areas. And so for their scholars, they care not just about your academics, but also these other areas. And as somebody who has worked in a couple of private schools in the UK, I fully understand that, because their children are going to be pushed out to stand on different stages. They'll go on trips around the world. I think in Tonbridge School, they sing in the Vatican, they sing in all sorts of places. So they and they only have a small group of kids. So they need those kids to have as many different skills as possible to make the most of these opportunities. And so the smallest thing that you can bring as a plus is to your child's advantage. And I think we saw that play out in Ife's assessment. Okay. So let's see. What was Ife's how did he describe the whole process, including the music assessment? Because I think you ended up getting him to perform a piece. So there's another comment I wanted to make it, because I think there was a bit of panic and we thought, oh, should we just teach him a grade 3 piece?
Yeah.
Should we just teach him a grade 3 piece? How long is it going to take him to learn a grade 3 piece? This is somebody who we were working towards his grade 1. And I said, that's a bad idea. Because if he goes in playing a grade 3 piece, he will be assessed as a grade 3 student.
Yeah.
And it's beyond just the piece. They are going to expect so many other things that he will not be able to. It will actually count against him. He'll come across as incompetent. Also, he will not go into the room confident. He will not own the room. He will not be able to show off, at his level, because his confidence will be shaky. And so I said, no, we're not doing that. We're going to go with what he knows already, what he knows well. We will polish it, make sure that he gives it all the artistic flair that they're looking for, but let him go as he is, at the standard that he is. And I'm glad that paid off, But what was his feedback on the process? What did he say to you?
It was quite, I picked him up, after it was a full day. They were dropped off as early as 8:30 or thereabout, and they were there until 4:30 in the evening. So it was a full day, and music was somewhere in between. They had assessments with different teachers, including the head teacher and different heads of departments. And yeah, he thoroughly enjoyed, the entire process, specifically for the music. We asked him how that went, and he got in, had a chat with the head of music, told him he was going to play a couple of pieces and also sing. And what they had in there was like a really big piano, so he uses at home as a keyboard, and they had, a really big piano. So when he started playing his first piece, I think if I remember very well, it was a Mozart piece. When he started playing, his first piece, he needed to apply more pressure, but thankfully the head of music fully understood that his equipment at home was different. So, he encouraged him to put in, to apply more pressure, which he did. And, it was very good. He got very good feedback from the head of music following that. Also, the same for his second piece. And eventually he also sang as well, and he got generally positive, feedback for all three activities, two pieces on the piano, and also, a singing activity. Yeah, and that was it really.
Amazing. And he wasn't crying, he wasn't shaking, he wasn't panicked at the end that, oh, he's done whatever. Yeah,
No.
he came out quite calm.
Yes, he went in very, very confident. And something we also tried to do was for him to learn to play these pieces without relying,
On the sheet. Yes.
yes, exactly. And he got there before going in for the tests, and was able to play them, without relying on his book.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, so from his set, roughly how many boys do you think? I know you don't know for sure. Roughly how many boys do you think? If you think about the numbers from the very first assessment through to the end,
Yeah.
what was the size of that number and what was the size of the number at the end, roughly? Because I know you don't have the exact figures.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can estimate, from what the head of the scholarship program was telling us all through the entire process. So from our estimate, there were over 100 students that started the process, maybe close to 150, that had the first ISEB test in September last year.
And those were the children who were invited to come and do that. So they'd have had more applicants than that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes, yeah. So over 100, started the process at the test. And then it was whittled down to about 30, for the second stage. Okay. And after the second stage, they whittled that initial 30 down to 20, but then they had children who were already in private school that were also interested in attempting the foundation scholarship. So they brought in 10 from that process. So that took the number back to 30. So at the final stage, there were 30 students, and as we understand it, out of that 30, they selected 10 for the foundation scholarship.
Wow. So less than 10% of the 150 or so that started at the beginning. And just to be clear, if he was always state educated throughout, it's not like he went to some fancy private school, no.
No.
Okay.
Private
but he was, sorry? Just down the road. But he was clearly able to make his mark and was selected clearly above some children who had been privately educated all their lives.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So what is your advice, having navigated this path? What is your advice to parents who would like to have, a similar kind of result? What have you learned from this process?
You understand?
Okay. I think one thing that struck out for me through the process is no experience is ever wasted. opportunity always meets preparedness to some extent, and opportunities are always there. It's just if you're prepared to take on those opportunities. And so, when we started the whole journey with music, we never really knew it was going to bring us this far. We didn't even know that, okay, if he would also be that interested in music, but we thought that there's more to life. And I think there's this saying we tend to say that, we want our children to do more than we did. And for me, and my husband as well, that's one of the things we want. I wanted our children to kind of be exposed to other things, to things that we weren't, exposed to. And so music was one of many things that we thought, would be something that, that they would have as part of their own lives. And I think the fact that not placing any limit on yourself was also important throughout the process. One thing we said to ourselves is, okay, we'll keep going through each stage, because at some point they said to us, look, if you think you can't go any further, you probably, if you don't pass, then you can't move to the next stage. And we looked at ourselves and we said, look, it's worth going through the journey, and let's see where it leads us to. More importantly, I don't want to leave this call without emphasizing the fact that, God led us through the process, because even the idea, of getting the keyboard during the COVID period was just something that just, came out of the blue. Oh, let's just get something so that when we come out of the COVID crisis, there's something else that the kids, that if you would have kind of come out of the process. Now, I don't take it lightly. It didn't just come out of the blue. I believe it was God inspired, because without that idea, then we wouldn't have, gone through all of this. So I think these things were kind of probably things that I will leave. I think finally, before I hand over to my husband, the fact that no experience, I said, okay, maybe I said it before, but I'll just say it again, no experience is wasted. Okay. And for us, for us as parents, what it is that we do for our kids really counts. You never know when it will become relevant. It would count at some point, but just keeping with the pace. And Kumbi, you say 10 minutes a day is all that matters. You don't need to go overboard, but it will, help in some shape or form in the future. Little drops of water at the end of the day will make a mighty ocean. So if there's anything, I'm just going to leave those words with us on the call.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Daddy?
Yeah, I don't think there's much more to add to it. So maybe it's just to re-emphasize one of the points, which is, the fact that for many of us parents, especially, those of us who grew up in Nigeria, there were so many opportunities, that we didn't, or so many things we didn't get the opportunity to experience. And in this day and age, there are just no limits to what we can expose our children to. Who would have thought that it was possible to learn to play the piano over Zoom?
Don't worry, I was the same with you. Before COVID, I didn't think it was possible either.
So, so I think it's a case of looking out for all of these opportunities and allowing the children, exposing the children to them, okay, because it's good for their development as individuals, one, and secondly, it can open doors in the future. It can open doors in the future.
Absolutely. Very well said. Thank you so much. And I think, what you said about consistency is key. Consistency beats everything else, because if you have talent and you're not nurturing that talent consistently, it's not going to develop. And if you don't have talent and you're consistent, guess what? You will overtake the so-called talented person. because you are building those muscles more, reliably. Okay, so I think at this stage, I'm really grateful. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I'm sure there might be people who have questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand so I can spotlight you and you can ask your questions. So does anybody, excuse me, does anybody have anything that they want to ask or say or comment? Don't be shy. We have people joining us from, okay, so Bumi Archer, I will please unmute. Thank you. And please go ahead and ask a question. Are you speaking? We can't hear you, Bumi. Hello? I don't know if you're connected to audio. I don't know whether Bumi is having some connection issues. Okay. Does anybody else want to say something while we're waiting for Bumi? Anybody else? Okay. Let's see. Yes, you can type. Yes, Bumi says she's going to type. Okay, we have someone here, Biola, who joined late. She just want to recap. Okay, so while Bumi is putting her question in the chat, I'll just go over it very quickly. So Tonbridge is one of the top 10 boys' schools, private schools, not just boys' schools in the UK. And the fees, the termly fees, by the time you add everything else, is like close to over £20,000 a term. Okay, this is not per annum, this is a term. And they have a £2.5 million fund that they use in scholarships, awarding scholarships to people who would not normally have an opportunity to study in their school. And it's a very competitive process, but we could tell from the website that the school is actually quite particular about music. And as even for the scholarships that they give children at age 10 and 11, they said they're looking for children that are high academic achievers, and also with that demonstrate music potential. And so if his parents didn't find out until quite late in the process that music could be an option or could be a factor in the process, but they went for it anyway. Thankfully, they had been consistent with his music right through the time he was preparing for his exams, and so they had things to show for it. And so it turned out that he did his music assessment, and we believe that was a factor. So that's the recap. Okay, so Bumi's question is this. So my child is a girl, 16, was interested in music a few years back, but we didn't develop the interest. Is it too late for her to go into music? So one of my favorite sayings, Bumi, is it is never too late. Never, ever. I think music is one of those things that is ingrained in us. We are actually born musical. We all have an affinity for, songs, for sounds, whatever. So no, you just need to find a program that will, suit her, that would see to her passions, because obviously as a young adult now, she will have very, very clear tastes in music. And so what we want to do is to build on her interest and engage in something that she loves and she's interested in doing. And you'll be I've seen all sorts of children. You would think that at that age they're only interested in pop. I've had children that age who loved classical, and that's all they wanted to learn, but it's really just down to what her interest is. It is never ever too late. We have adults who in their retirement take music lessons. There is so many benefits, and I could go on and on. So yeah, the short answer is no, there isn't. David, what is your question, please? Would you like to unmute? Oh, I've lost you. There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for such an informative session, and congrats again to the Okele case on your son getting into Tonbridge. So I guess the question I have is, well, it's kind of two parts. One, you did say that at the final stage he had to play two Mozart pieces. I mean, how long were they for? I mean, what was there any time limit specified for those pieces? And then second question was around the final stage as well, where you said he had to do some singing. Was that something they specified, or was that something that you threw into the mix? And if that was that, did he attend any? Did he go for any singing vocal lessons?
Okay. Thank you so much, David, for those questions. So for the piano pieces, it was one Mozart piece and a second piece, which I can't remember the name now.
I think it was a big one piece.
I can't remember the name of the second piece, but there were two pieces.
Sorry, can I ask you to rewind? I think I was frozen. I don't know.
Okay.
That's the beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
So can I? All right. Yeah. So yeah, I was saying that it was two pieces. One of them was Mozart. That was the first one. The second piece, I can't remember the name of that piece now. But in terms of how long, I think they were about 2 minutes each. You know, they were about 2 minutes each, and he only had to play them once. So in less than 5 minutes, he was done with the music, with the piano. Now for the singing, that's an interesting one, because we only just mentioned, you know, that one of his extracurricular activities was that he also sang in the choir. And so, you know, the head of scholarship was like, yeah, the music teacher would also like to hear if he sing. So we quickly got in touch with Auntie Kumbi. I was like, he's never, you know, taken any singing classes. And now, you know, we just mentioned that he sings in the choir and they want to hear him sing. So he did a crash course with Mr. Joseph for a couple of weeks, just to, you know, check his vocals, get some professional, you know, advice, and that was it, really. You know, so he wasn't taking any singing classes before then, just singing in his children's choir in church, which we mentioned to the school, and they picked up on that and said they wanted to hear him sing. You know, but thankfully we were able to get some support from Mr. Joseph, and he went in and sang and got good feedback on that.
Can I just clarify something that David might be thinking of? The Mozart was his own choice. The school did not give you any specific pieces, right?
No.
He just picked pieces from that he was learning already. And Mozart happened to be one of the pieces he was learning in his preparation towards, I think, his grade 1. And so he just happened to be a piece he was learning. The school didn't specify you have to play a particular song from a particular composer. It was completely free choice.
Yeah.
Okay. But it just comes back to what we're saying about music being part of his life. You know, that's another thing that they look for. That it's not just something that he does once a week with a teacher. He's actually engaged with music outside of lessons in his day-to-day, you know, with church and things like that. And I think that is also important in developing well-rounded musicians. Bumi had a following question to say, can we still do music online? Distance is an impediment to us. 100%, Bumi. We are teaching people online, both in Nigeria and outside. We have adult learners and, you know, young adult learners, older adults who are taking lessons all the time from different parts of the world. So yeah, it's thanks to technology, distance is no longer a barrier. So thank you. Okay, any other questions? Does anybody else have anything they want to ask? Any other questions? Okay, so we're doing well for time. So what I'm going to do is I just want to share my screen. I said I was going to share some opportunities that we have. If you would like to explore, you know, your child's musicality, give them an opportunity to learn, develop their musical skills. Like I said, it's never too late, never. I came into music because of the benefits it does for your brain. Okay. And so I think everybody needs a stronger brain at any age. So whether you've got exams or you're past exams, there's more that music does for you than just simply exams. And so We have a summer program coming up, and for everyone on this call at this point in time, we are giving a 25% off all our summer programs, whether it's private lessons, whether it's a group schedules, whatever it is that we're doing. You as a thank you to us for joining, and also as a what's the word? As a what's the word? We're trying to encourage you to take that step. Please take advantage of this. It will not be available publicly. And if you're interested, please put your email address in the chat now. Okay, put your email address in the chat, and I will make sure that we send this all the information that you need to you, all the different options that there are, both online and in person. We have 3 centers now in Lagos. We're in Ikoyi, which is our main office, and we also have a center in Lekki Phase 1 and also in Ikeja. So we can try and work something out for you. So if this is of interest, put your name and your email address in the chat, please, and we will get back to you with whatever. Okay, so I think if there are no more questions, I would like to say thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Okeleke, for giving us this opportunity to hear your story. I love the simplicity of it. I love the fact that there was no magic. Your story is very relatable, and it's quite achievable for many people. So thank you for sharing, and from the bottom of my heart, I wish him the very, 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 very best. I hope to see him exceed you in all levels, in height, in achievement, in everything. That he's gonna just surpass you. He'll leave you in the dust behind. Yeah. And that all the fruits of your labor, that you will just see it and you'll be so proud, and you will leave this earth happy that you have done your best for him and for his siblings as well. So God bless you. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much, and you too as well. Thank you very much for the support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very, very much, everyone. If nobody has anything else to say, we're going to end this meeting now. I want to be respectful of your time, and I want to say God bless. And if you're part of our Music Moms and Dads community, you'll be able to rewatch this as often as you like on the Academy. All right then. God bless everybody. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Music Mums and Dads is a global online community of parents and carers who are intentional about raising musical children. Designed for the non-musical parent or carer, the community provides a resource bank of tips, research, book reviews and interviews that will help you make sense of your child's journey to music proficiency. You will learn how to support your child through the various stages of their musical growth. You will also be able to access practical tools and downloadable templates and resources with which you can support practice at home. Members have unlimited access to past and future interviews with parents and professionals from around the world, from which you can glean useful tips and learn how to avoid common pitfalls. Anyone can become a member for one low annual fee, regardless of whether or not your child takes lessons with KMC. However, membership is free for parents of children taking lessons with KMC. Get in touch to find out more.